Don't you know, rank it up. You got to rank it up. Don't you know, rank it up. Should that be the intro, do you reckon?
Hello everyone and welcome to the first ever episode of Ranking Up. It took us a while to find the name for this podcast. We were spitballing for ages.
I thought the NPCs.
He wanted to call us the NPCs, but we found a middle ground. So it's still gaming related, but basically, we're here to chat about whatever we feel like, maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on our schedule. But hopefully you guys can enjoy what we have to say. If you have any questions or suggestions, drop them in the Discord or tweet at us. We'll definitely look into and maybe do a future episode on it. But today, we're going to start off strong. We are going to start off...
Carry on then.
And we're going to start off with a pretty relevant topic, I would say, and a question that you get asked a lot.
How big are your muscles?
And that, because you've been grinding for like a long time now in esports.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you kind of went into Valorant as the first game, but ever since Iceland, you kind of became like an overnight sensation for the international audience.
Yeah.
I know people in Europe like know who you are. They kind of roughly know your personality.
Yeah.
But
Evil. Toxic.
the villain.
Villain.
But obviously, you kind of blew up. I think that's the best way to put it. Going into Iceland, you had, 8K followers?
Yeah. And then coming out of Iceland, 40k plus.
Yeah. I think you're nearly 50K now.
Yeah, close.
Yeah, which is why we kind of wanted to do this episode, because a lot of people also ask me, like, how did you get into journalism? How do I get my work noticed? How do I be a talent? And so on. So we're going to combine our worlds today.
Yeah.
And we're going to...
A fountain of knowledge is combined, combustion, the well of ascension.
I was really giving it there.
Yeah, you were.
And yeah, we're going to combine some of our knowledge and basically talk about how to get noticed in esports. Obviously, there's a lot of ways to do it, and we're not experts. We're just kind of speaking from experience. But hopefully we can answer some of your questions, because we both get asked these questions a lot. Yeah, so let's start. I mean, like I said, 8K followers to 47K. How did that happen? How do you feel like you got noticed?
I mean, that from me getting noticed there is completely different from me back in the day. Should I go through back in the day first?
Yeah, let's start
So
with that.
I'll keep it short and swift. Back in the day, I used to be a streamer and playing Counter-Strike. And I was averaging about 80 viewers. This was way back when 80 viewers was actually considered pretty good, because Summit 1G was only on like 1K or something, you know, something like quite small compared to what he's on now. And yeah, I was playing in Counter-Strike and I was global elite, playing ranked and whatnot. And one of a coach from a UK team spotted me and asked me if I wanted to go play gathers with UK teams. So that's one way I got spotted. Through like knowing other people from the UK and how they got spotted is the only kind of reference I can give when it came to Counter-Strike, and it's still transferable into Valorant, is by popping into streams that of UK people's streams and just typing in chat once in every while, you know, like get your name like registered into them, because you might meet us in ranked if you're Radiant, you know, or Immortal. You might meet us in ranked and you want to leave a good impression, you want to leave a solid impression, and you want to be able to make contacts, because contacts means that you'll be able to grow in the scene, and that's how most people do it. It's all about being likable. You don't want to be toxic in ranked. You don't want to be toxic person in general. You want to stay positive and be likable.
It's the same the other way around, right? So if you're particularly toxic, people will start to associate you with that. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, you want to build your brand and you want to build a reputation which you can control, and the only way you can control that is to be a nice person. And like you said, if you're dropping in people's chats and your name starts being like a little bit recognizable in solo queue, and people associate you as like a nice guy, you never know what kind of opportunity they'll open, right? So like if someone needs a stand-in, or if someone enjoys your gameplay as well and you're like known for being nice, they're gonna be more likely to want to play with you.
It's how I found most of my teammates. Like, obviously, if you want to go pro, you have to be realistic. You have to get Radiant first, or at least like peak like quite high, you know? You need to be at that sort of level, because there's a massive difference between Radiant and pro competitive play. So we'll go into that another episode probably or something, but getting Radiant first is the first step before being in any position to like be noticed, you know? Once you hit Radiant, that's when like you can start thinking like, maybe I can go pro in this game. Before that, you have to be kind of realistic, okay? And then once you are raiding and you leave a positive image around people, you can start forming a team, because that's essentially how I met Mystic and everyone. It was through VPD or ranked even. And I was like, who's this Mystic lad? He's from UK. I'll just, tag him along in my team because like he's from UK, he seems quite nice and whatnot. He's all right. Like, Mystic was only all right at the game, really. He had good aim, but that was pretty much going
But
for him.
his attitude was so good.
And that's what I found
Yeah.
from playing with him, was his attitude was good. And I kind of, like, it says weird for me to give him a chance because, like, I was also at rock bottom kind of thing. Like,
Starting from the
starting
beginning.
from scratch. But I knew my kind of skill level when it came to team play. So I guess I gave him a chance because of his attitude and stuff. And that could happen to you if you are a top level pro. It's what happened with Magnum. Like, he had a slightly different route to be noticed. I think his was like, he was grinding in the scene, like playing in teams and whatnot. And he seemed to start getting good stats. That's another thing to get noticed. You got to be like a high stats player on like a site like VLR, because that's the site that everyone's using right now for stats. Maybe there'll be another one coming up soon, like I think Run It Back or something. But yeah, you start off with that, and if you have good stats, then we'll give you a chance. And that's what happened to Magnum. And he was a super nice guy, really creative and really positive. And we were like, whoa, like we were missing out here. And that's kind of how we noticed him. So there are loads of ways to get noticed.
But I also think, like, when that opportunity comes, which it will come, like, if you're someone that is hardworking and you're someone that's passionate and you have, like, a really clear goal, nothing is impossible unless, you want to be, like, a 100-meter runner. But even then, you can still train to do that.
It will show as well.
Exactly. But when that opportunity came, like, speaking of players like Magnum, the way that you kind of grasp that opportunity and kind of make the most of it is also super important to get noticed. For someone like Magnum, like you said, during his trial, he was like very vocal with communication, really nice.
He had a lot of setups.
Yeah, like came
stuff
prepared.
that I hadn't seen before,
Yeah.
because obviously I had a previous cipher and whatnot who had his own setups, but to have like something fresh and new that I couldn't think of because I wasn't a cipher main, it's like you want to be a nerd at this game. You want to be spotted for being a nerd and a positive nerd, and that's kind of how, when you do get noticed, you need to make sure you really like grab that opportunity.
Yeah.
You're not throwing away your shot, Alexander Hamilton.
But that's like 50% of it is getting that opportunity, right? But then the
Yeah.
other 50% is actually using it. So
Yeah.
for you, for example, like going to the first ever international LAN, it wasn't a solo effort. Obviously, it was a
Yeah.
team effort. But even when you got there, like, competition is one thing. You needed to win because you're very competitive. That's what you're there for. But aside from that, like, you still had to, do content and
Yeah.
try and make the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're
Yeah.
only going to be young once, and you're only going to be in these situations once as well. So if someone comes to you for content, you got to be gagging for it, because content is fun. We're getting we're getting paid to be pro gamers and whatnot. And if you want to really have a lengthy career, you need to be like, in the chance that you can get noticed, like I did at Iceland. Just be yourself and be positive and just be likable. Like, I was just being an idiot on camera, and I couldn't help it, because when the camera's on me, I just suddenly turned into this, like, Showtime,
You're always like that.
But,
yeah.
it's just me. Obviously, other people won't be as, like, confident and whatnot, but you can still be very likable. There's other players out there that I respect a lot in League of Legends who are nowhere near the same personality as me, but they definitely do have, like, a very likableness to them. And that's another thing. When you get noticed, you got to be noticed for the right things.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I do feel like there's so many different ways to get noticed. And like you said, there's, I guess, the quote unquote right way, but there's also, like, I wouldn't say the wrong way, but I would say personally, I feel like a bad ways to get noticed, because you can be noticed for being toxic, like we said before. Maybe being toxic is going to help you to get your name out there, and then you can, like, have a brand. There's plenty of streamers, I won't name them, but there's streamers and pro players we know that are, like, built on being toxic, and it
Yeah.
works because you either have some streamers and players that are toxic, like, as a joke, like as banter, like trash talk, which I personally actually quite enjoy.
Yeah.
Or you have people that are just, like, pieces of shit.
Like,
Yeah.
it comes to a point where it's like a bit too much.
It's crossing the
You're
line
trying
there,
too
yeah.
hard to be this kind of edgy character.
And I don't think, as a smaller, like, content creator or a smaller person with a small social following, I don't think that method works as well, because
for sure not.
yeah, I just don't agree with it.
In any
Yeah.
business or any kind of environment where you're a new guy coming into the scene, I don't think anyone likes an arrogant new guy coming into the scene. They like a guy who shows respect to the senior of any business work place you go to, or shows like, yeah, you kind of have to suck up a little. Like, you have to kiss some booty, like, you know, like, I guess, but you don't have to do it in a way that's like so crazily doing it. You just got to be nice, and then people will know that, and just respect the people that have like set the kind of standards of the scene, you know, who are setting the way, because you're the next ones in line, and to get your shot you just got to be nice, you know.
Yeah, and I think one of the tips I'd say to give, whether you're a content creator or a player, is getting used to having a brand. Like, well, first of all, knowing what your brand is, like knowing what you want to be. Of course, this can change over time. Like, maybe you start off and you want to be one specific kind of brand, and then over time you're like, actually, no, I want to change it up. We see that a lot. I think being sure about the brand you want to represent, even though you're a competitor, or in my case a journalist, you still need to have a brand, especially these days, like on social media, and having like, you know, content and cameras everywhere. Having like a clear direction is good. And also, if you are a player, you need to get comfortable on camera, and you have to, at least the bare minimum, be okay to speak to like a journalist or on broadcast. It's so important if you want to build yourself. Yes, there are plenty of players that have managed to get to where they are just based on the fact they're like unreal gamers. But you got to think about your futures too. So once you get noticed as like a good player in solo queue, whatever, if you have the edge of like being able to make content, having entertaining streams, and kind of like being comfortable in front of a camera, you're going to grow so much faster. It's going to be so much easier for you. Yassine is a person who is immaculate when it comes to his on-camera stuff. He's so relaxed, but also he's so willing to like chat and give you content. He's honestly, I say unanimously across VCT, the broadcast talents, I would say like he's one of our favorite people to interview, to have on the show. He's definitely one of my personal favorite person to speak to and interview, because he's just so relaxed and friendly, and he's obviously like over the years have had enough experience to get to this point, that even if one day he just stops being a good Valorant player, which I'm sure it's going to be a long time when that happens, he has a very, very, very decent future set for himself. Like he's gonna be okay, and also he's getting fans, not to just himself, but to his organization. You're not going to stay a one org like forever. Some players might, like it's rare. But in the off chance that you want to leave an org or you want to join another team, there's a lot of good players out there. But if you come with a fan base, you come with a brand, and you come with something that's marketable, like CNED, I know he doesn't go on camera that often, but he comes with like such a huge fan base. And I think he's a little bit lucky because he has Turkey behind him. But if you're someone who isn't from like a massive region, but you come with like a pre-built fan base like you have now, your value is going to go up like crazy, and you're going to find it a lot easier to join an org. You might not be the best player on the server, but if you're coming with like 25k followers on Twitter who are like loyal to you and love you, and you're growing and you put out good content, like that is going to be so valuable. So sorry, before I finish, I don't understand why players just hate doing media. Like back in the Summon FC days, I was the team manager for Summon FC, and we had like a day, like half a day, where I sat all of the boys down and I media trained every single one of them. I gave them feedback. I did like mock interviews with everybody, just to get everyone like comfortable. And I'm glad I did that, because I think Mystic is super good in interviews now. Like with the first couple times I did interviews with Mystic, like training, I was like, oh, there's potential here, like he's not bad. But then over time, and his willingness to do interviews and his willingness to kind of like put himself out there, I think over VCT, a lot of people saw his personality, and a lot of people really enjoyed the way that he spoke. And it's kind of crazy, because I speak to so many players who are like, no, I don't want to be on camera. No, I don't want to be interviewed. I'm just here to play. But you're not just here to play. Like, if you are just here to play, I think you're wasting your opportunity. You're also here to like build something for yourself.
I was going to add just to the previous thing about with the Twitter followers and whatnot, like whether someone has 500, 10,000, 100,000. I've known players with 10,000, 100,000 of followers who got declined to join, who orgs weren't interested in due to his negative brand in terms of like how he
Toxicity,
behaved and
yeah.
toxicity. So that's one thing to just be aware of as well. You want to set a good precedent, and you want to be the kind of teammate that when your teammates talk about you, they think of you in a positive light, because that will get you more opportunities. They'll be like, oh, I want to play with this guy again. Yo, org, please may you get this guy on the team. Oh, he's a free agent. Nice. You know?
Yeah.
Even if you've got 0 followers or 100,000, it's very important.
I mean, using your ex-teammates as an example, like if someone came to you and was like, hey, like Mo40 in chat, like
And
I
people
want to
have.
yeah, I want to sign them. You're never going to say anything negative. You're always
No.
going to be like, they were a great teammate. Yes. Like,
Yeah,
it didn't work
because
out,
they were,
unfortunately.
actually.
Yeah, it's a long story, why it didn't work out. But, you know, like you said, you're going to vouch for people that you liked.
It was all to do with in-game. It wasn't nothing to do with out-of-game. I think both of them were lovely, you know. And, like, when anyone comes to me, I say that, like, easy to work with and whatnot.
Yeah, you're never going to ever have a bad vouch. But
No.
whereas if you did have a poor experience, which you have in some of your other teams like Counter-Strike or Valorant as well, again, not to name any names, but if people came to you about some of the other teammates where you had bad experiences with and people respected your opinion, you're always going to be like, no, that person isn't fun
There's
to
people
be
that I
around.
won't play with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all pro players will tell you this. There's definitely people that they've had bad experiences with. But I think it's really important to kind of like start off on the right foot. Like,
Start disciplining yourself now. Disciplining? Is that a word?
Yeah, that's a word.
Start giving yourself some discipline now, and it will help you out in the long run. Like me, I'm 26 now, and I didn't have a lot of discipline, but I managed to make it eventually. But I have quite a bit of discipline now. So whether it comes to like how hard you work, how you behave and whatnot, and your values and whatnot, just start getting that on the line now. I know you're a lot younger and you probably don't care this much about it, but from me being an older guy, like, yo, you better do it. I don't look older though, so
No.
I'm still living in my 20-year-old body.
Well, is there anything that you as like a 17, 18, 19-year-old that you wish you had done differently when it comes to trying to get noticed, or things that you wish you didn't do?
I wish I'd stayed in terms of, because when I was starting out the game, I was very positive and I saw like mad growth. I wish I stayed on that trajectory of like hard work and staying positive and being professional. I think I don't drink anymore, and I think that was a big factor to my performance. Like that kind of, it's good to be social with your teammates and whatnot, but like there's also, it's very good to be professional with diet and professional with exercise and professional with like how much you are drinking and whatnot. And I know everyone goes through like a party stage and whatnot, but there's a time and a place for partying, and it's when you win events or after events, you know, if you want to. Obviously now I feel like it affects my performance too much and I don't actually quite like it, so I've kind of drifted away from that thing, and I never really liked it anyway. It was just there for the social thing, but being on like non-alcoholic beer, I still have the same amount of fun whilst also being ready to grind the next day, you know. So it's I think that I can't control that and whatnot to like younger 19, 18-year-olds, but for me it would be like discipline.
I mean, another thing I'd say is social media. Be careful about what you tweet. Like, please be careful. The internet, once it's out there, it's out there. Like, unless you have 0 followers, yeah, you can delete that and people won't see it. But once it's there, it's there. And I can tell you a couple of players just like in my mind, where there was one player who during VCT Game Changers, he's like a European player, I believe, he tweeted women can't play games or something like fuck girls or something really sexist. I called him out on it. I think some of you might remember this. And I was like, this is a professional player competing in VCT who just tweeted that women can't play games. Women aren't allowed to be in gaming. And I, of course, flagged that up to Riot. You guys might not like that, or you might call me like a snitch or whatever. But as a woman...
You're going to get stitches.
As a woman, like working for Riot to an extent and being involved in that tournament, I don't want to be on broadcast with a player who publicly tweeted that, that's like really, that's not a good message to send
Yeah.
out, you know? I don't want to like endorse that. So this player has potentially just fucked up his entire career, because I remember you, I know who you are, and lots of other people also remember that you tweeted that. You can't just go change your IGN and pretend like we don't remember. So and Riot also have a rule, Riot have a rule in their ruling that if you like do any misconduct outside of their game, so like express any like racist, sexist views on social media, you're not permitted to play in their tournaments. They have rules for this. So you guys have to just be careful. Like, don't think you're being edgy or funny or memey. Like, you can honestly ruin your pro career by doing something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this could be like from years ago to now. Like if something from years ago gets released or whatnot, people are gonna judge you on it now, kind of thing, you know. So like anything like that, you just got to be careful and whatnot. And I think you just kind of have to be on your best behavior. And also, I don't think you should be tweeting stuff like that anyway, because we're in 2021 now. And I think there's a time for, because us two are quite, we're quite in the leadership role of this esports scene, the Valorant esports scene, in terms of like we're making a big impact, hopefully, and I personally want to make a positive impact now. So I think like us calling you out and like whatnot, and calling people out for misbehaving and doing all these remarks and whatnot, is I think it's fair, to be fair, because we don't want a scene like that, and I don't think anyone wants a scene like that, right?
No, I mean, I think you've seen how it's affected me.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
will definitely have a podcast episode on this topic because it's really heavy and it's a lot.
We'll give it a couple of days, couple of episodes
weeks.
at least.
But like you've seen how it impacts
Yeah.
me when people are racist to me or say really sexist things, like constantly like spamming it to me or DMing it to me.
Because it might be just a one time for you, but it's relentless
but
for her.
It is relentless. So I think,
and we don't know that because we're boy gamers that are white, you know.
I mean, that's also another generalization, but
Me.
yeah, but I think
So we'll cut that.
You're obviously in a very privileged position, but
Yeah,
I think
that's what I meant.
you see how it affects me, and you see how unnecessary it is, like to for people to do that, and also, I think the thing that upsets the both of us the most is people who are your fans doing it to me, because it's like,
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
if you care about him, why would you send me like racist or sexist abuse? Like, it just makes no sense. That's for another day. But yeah, look after your social medias, be smart about it. Like, there's a difference between like doing something memey and being a bit of a troll and tweeting things like women belong in the kitchen, not in video games, you know, like that's not going to make anyone think you deserve a big following, and that's not going to make any your future teammates feel comfortable playing with you, because trust me, it impacts other people too. So imagine if you're on a team and then you tweet that and you get kicked. That is so irresponsible for the rest of your teammates. They're going to have to find someone new, and they're going to have to deal with the fallouts of your irresponsible actions. So I think just using social media wisely, because it's such a great tool. You can really grow, like back in your days when you first started, before Twitter was like that big, there was no way really for people in the UK to like properly grow and properly get your personalities out there.
Though.
Yeah, whereas
Despite that.
Whereas now, like, you don't you can be from a smaller region, like Patiphan, for example. Like before Twitter and stuff, I don't think he would have had the opportunity to really grow himself.
Yeah, and if I was to take Patiphan into example, or
Great
like,
guy.
Good guy. Other players, I guess, like who barely have any followers, but like all it takes is good connections with like myself now, but like if I was to say like the Mixwells and the Screams, because they're like the top
Professional
dogs.
also, yeah.
Like just getting any sort of connection or reaction from those like will obviously give you a few followings as well, especially if you're playing in the scene, you know. So you kind of want to be aiming for those top dudes, but also giving them the respect and not obviously spamming them and whatnot. You just want to throw out a few like fishing lines to see if they bite on one of your memes and whatnot.
Sorry, I just
Yeah.
sneezed.
Bless you.
But I think Patiphan is such a great example because he's so young, but he's so joyful and wholesome.
He left a
and,
really good example.
impression. Everybody
example.
remembers him as like he's came from a smaller region, but he was humble. He was nice to you in person. He was nice to everybody, and you're gonna remember that guy. Like, you don't want to be the guy that comes to an event and just shits on everybody and isn't friendly or you know,
Yeah, you wanna
it'd
be
be
nice.
toxic. You want to be nice. And I think Scream is another person that I'd say is such a good example. Because
Scream's
obviously,
very nice.
obviously, Scream is like his mechanical skills alone. Like, even if he never showed his face, I feel like that would have made him what he is anyway, because he's just so insanely good at everything. And just the FPS generational talent. But I have never heard from anybody, whether fans or players or content creators, that has ever had a bad thing to say about Scream.
He's a nice guy.
Everybody unanimously is like, he's super nice and he's just such a great person to be around. I think that's why there's so many Scream simps as well. I'm a Scream simp. But every time I interview him, super nice, like just the easiest person to deal with. And I don't think anyone has ever thought of him as like super toxic, not pleasant, bad teammate. Like, you want to be Scream's teammate. But you know, I think if you look at the way he's built his brand as well, I think he's done it super, super well. That guy is smart, obviously. And he's built like a really good brand for himself. And I think,
Considering he hasn't been in the CSGO scene for ages, like properly.
Yeah.
He didn't get himself involved in the team, but he was still able to build his brand as being like this like hot aimer, hot talent, and also just really likable guy. So
exactly.
there's people out there that have done it like in their own way. You can find your way, but you can take inspiration from them and like use them as kind of like a kind of guide.
I mean, some people, I think NA fans weren't happy with Scream with what he said at the press conference.
That was a joke.
But like, you were there.
No one cares about that.
You were there, and the pros don't care.
No.
Like, if Shazam isn't offended by Scream, I don't know what gives people the rights to be offended on his behalf.
Yeah, I know. It's just fake.
Yeah.
We're just faking around, like trying to make it a bit spicy, you know.
Yeah, I enjoyed that, because you don't want a press conference where everyone's just deadpan and not interacting.
Yeah. So
Whereas,
I'm happy
like,
Scream said that, because I managed to get my line out, my Conor McGregor one.
also, he didn't even say anything bad.
He just said, and
He
it was
said-
readable.
No, he said that Sentinels were more predictable. He didn't even say they were like I think he was like, yeah, the question was, what do you think is like a weakness of NA?
Yeah.
And he said, oh, I think Sentinels are predictable.
Yeah.
Which he's very entitled to say that. Like,
They never got to play them as well to
Yeah.
prove whether they were predictable or
exactly.
not as well. So.
But
And from my experience, I wouldn't say Sentinels were predictable, but they did have some telltale signs.
yeah, I mean, every
But
team
it's,
would, right?
but it's really
Yeah.
hard to fully predict any team. Like, you don't know if they're going to change it up or not. So they're a great team.
Yeah, I love this like sidebar about Scream, because we both like Scream so much.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, I think if you kind of like want some inspiration on the kind of person you want to be, what the type of player, what kind of brand, definitely look at like Mixwell, Scream. Again, like even me ever speaking to Mixwell, he's super nice and he's like very smart, amazing with the way that he's built his career as well. But I'd look up to people like Scream, Mixwell, Boaster, even if you feel like you can relate to him. But definitely like look at people that are relatable and investigate a little bit to see what they do that makes them stand out and what they do that's kind of like helped them this far, and try and emulate it, because no one is truly original at this point. I think everybody is kind of borrowing or emulating other things they see, whether it's like
That they like.
yeah, things that they like. Whether for me, for example, like I watch a stupid amount of like streams and other talents as well, and I have like I will write down notes of things that Machine does that I really like. Not that I can also do it, because Machine's brand is so different from mine, but I would write down things he does and I'll be like, oh, this is like really engaging. I like the way he like made this joke, or I like his vibe, whatever. I will do the same for Shocks. I would do the same for like a ton of other talent around. Golden Boy too at VCT. Yeah.
And the only way that because I get a lot of people asking me like, how do I remain so positive? The only way that you can do it is by practicing it and trying it.
Yeah,
Like,
always practice. Yeah.
like positivity is a thing that you can practice within the game. It's called like being stoic, you know. Like if you lose a round, there's nothing that can be helped now, unless there is something that could be helped for the future. Like there was some piece of utility missing that maybe if we do it this round, then we'll win. But like other than that, you just gotta kind of practice
on.
those things, and like in this case, move on. Next round, focus up, let's go.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. Like if you can get into that shape, and if you can get your teammates doing that, then you're on the right path to one being noticed, like just in general as yourself, but also as a team to be noticed.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. I think that's with everything. Like, you just need to practice, because you guys know, if you want to get good at Valorant, you have to play the game, you have to aim train. Same thing with your mindset. If you want to be positive, you got to at least like practice it. If you want to, like I said, try and like emulate some other people you like Boaster, or in my case, like I love Shocks and a lot of other talents as well. I would try and kind of like emulate little things here and there they do. It doesn't even have to be like a carbon copy, but just try and like consciously integrate it into what you're doing. I guess this kind of like moves us on to a little bit away from proper gaming and more into what I do, because I also get loads of questions from you guys about how to get noticed, not as like a pro, but how to get noticed in esports, doing other stuff.
It could be anything. You could be a designer,
literally
a graphic
anything.
designer, journalist.
But for me, for journalism, I think obviously doing it helps. Like, if you're someone that writes a lot, you're someone that like puts out a lot of work, you're someone that is always interacting with people, people are gonna know you after a while. The quality of
I was going to say, like anything, it's about the grind.
it is about the grind. I grinded for a long
Yeah,
time, a
'cause-
long time.
Yeah, because people don't understand like the way that some esports writers go about their day. Let's say they go to an event and they write the event. They might release the article the day after. Yinsu goes home and writes the article up on that same day. So then her article is the first to come out. And that's the sort of hard work. Like when I come back from the VCT, we just beat in Newton and I'm straight into the VODs to watch Sentinels because we've got to play them in 12 hours, like no bedtime yet, one VOD at least, That's the sort of grind that will get you to a level.
Obviously don't overdo it. I think you and
Yeah,
we're a little bit weird because we're so work centric. Like, it
we
drives
bounce off
us
each
so
other
much.
a bit too hard that we like working too much.
Yeah, I think we both. I would never preach my routines because I literally work like 12 hours a day every single day, and I have done for 6 years.
But do what's comfortable for you.
But whatever it is that works for you. But I will say, like, having the discipline and just little things like not being late, like this is my biggest pet peeve, but people remember those things like as a bad first impression. But I think if you want to get noticed as a writer, definitely, again, know what you like, know what you want to write about, know the type of writer you want to be, and read other people's stuff. Like, it blows my mind so many times when I speak to some up and coming writers who like wants to get advice from me or want me to guide them, but they've never read my stuff. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, look at me. But if you want advice from me, like, the least you can do is know the kind of person I am or the kind of content I put out. Same thing is for video interviews. I get this questions like probably more than any other question. Like, how do you get into video interviews? How do you get into like being on camera? How do you do this? How do you do that? I was so persistent with this because I knew I was good at interviews and I knew I enjoyed interviews. And,
you ask good questions.
And yeah, I do so much preparation for my interviews. You guys should see that, like my notes and stuff. But I just knew this was something I wanted to do. So I would literally like spam around every outlet under the sun, like constantly asking them like, do you need this? Do you need this? Do you need this? I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And in my downtime, I also like got my practice in, and I also watched so much of other people's stuff. Then by the time that I did get an opportunity, it was my turn. The balls, I was like grabbing them like this. I was like, I got an opportunity now. I'm not letting these go. Like, I'm just like grabbing them. But I was so like serious about this, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do video interviews now. I'm gonna fucking smash it, and I'm gonna get the best guests. I'm gonna ask the best questions. I'm gonna literally like write the best scripts. I was so obsessed with being like the best at it, and I was so persistent, even though like nobody gave me opportunity in the beginning. Even when I was starting up as a writer, I was writing about football for free for like nearly a year. No, that's a lie, 6 months. And then in the second half, 6 months of that year, I was getting paid £2 per article. £2.
That's why she's with me.
£2. It would be like
It would
be like 600 words, you guys, for £2, which I again don't recommend. But if you're starting out, I think any experience is good experience,
I
but
think
know
you
your
need-
worth. Know your worth.
Because I
Yeah.
think when you come to writing, it could be
You gotta know
at
your
the
worth
start.
too.
You,
Yeah.
it's probably like a hobby at the start.
Yeah.
Until you can make it into a career that you like, which leads to my question to you, because I actually have a question.
Yeah.
Do you believe in burnout?
Uh, I let's talk about this on another episode because
Okay,
I think
yeah.
we can do that. But I'm such a workaholic. I do get worried about myself sometimes because when I burn out, it's quite intense. You've witnessed it, but it doesn't happen that often.
I cannot work anymore.
Yeah, but I'm
No,
so
I'm
used to
joking.
it. Like when I was working in sports.
Wait, it's the next. We're doing the next episode.
Yeah, we
you
will.
said.
But when I was working in sport, I was doing 4 days of work in sport and 4 days a week, and then 3 days a week in esports for a year. I didn't have Christmas Day. Like, not healthy, guys. Don't follow this advice. But anyway, yeah, to get noticed as a journalist, I think you have to read other people's stuff, understand what you want to do, understand where you want to be. Make sure you promote yourself on social media. Like, you gotta be your biggest fan. Like, you have to be the person that think what you've done is sick.
You
And
gotta
what
like
you've done,
your own stuff.
Exactly. What you've done is good. So good that you are proud to put it out in the world and you want everybody to see it. That was me in the beginning. I was like, I'm sick. This is a great interview. I'm going to do everything in my power to make people read this because I was so proud of it. Yeah.
However, don't strive for perfection, because I don't think you're gonna reach perfection.
That's my biggest problem.
Because you'll end up wasting too much time.
Yeah.
You need to be efficient with your time.
It's true.
It's like when I was video editing as a vlogger. I know it's completely different, but that is still one way of getting noticed. Like, I was making videos and I was actually getting noticed as a vlogger and not as a pro. Even though I really wanted to go pro, I was getting noticed as a vlogger. Like, I thought there was going to be media teams that wanted to hire me and like vlog for G2 or vlog for Fnatic or whatnot.
Are you allowed to say G2?
No, this is back in the day though.
Yeah, I know, but just like for bands, for memes.
Alright, vlog for RNG.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Vlog for RNG. Sooning.
But I
Wait,
get
I
you.
wasn't finished.
Yeah, sorry. Carry on.
I can't remember what it was now.
Perfection.
Yeah, so you have to be efficient with your time. So you have to like be very like, is this in? Is this out? Is this good? Is this bad? Right, get rid of it if not. Like when Yinsu's going to be editing this, it's going to be shorter than the actual production that we've done here.
No,
probably.
but I think that's a really good point because I have a problem with perfection. Like
Yeah.
I'm so down on myself. I'm my number one fan, and I'm also my biggest critic.
It's
Like,
not good enough, Jake.
yeah, I'm always like, oh no, this is not good
Calm
enough.
down. You said you went once.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I was just making an example.
Yeah, I mean, I VOD review myself a lot as well, which is another thing you need to do. But I think
blinked.
I think to get noticed, be your biggest fan, advocate for your own work, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself is such a big part of this. Believe in yourself, and there's gonna be good days and really bad days. So
Ballista.
yeah, we don't talk about that in this house.
Wave.
Getting yourself a support system is really important
Sentinels.
as well, but we'll talk about that in another episode. But I will just quickly round this off by moving on to talent, because I know obviously like now I'm a host too. People want to know how you can get noticed doing that, because a lot of people want to be casters. Like so many people I know that always message me about how to like get into casting and stuff, and
Oh no! Say what you're gonna do, and then I want to add.
Okay. I'm so envious of all of my colleagues and friends, and I'm so like I admire them so much for being able to get to where they are, do what they do. Like Pansy, for example, holy shit, she's been my hero before I even met her, and you can attest to how embarrassing I am when I'm around Pansy.
Pansy.
Yeah, I'm like sweating, like oh my god.
Pansy messaged me.
Yeah, every
The
time.
first time she met Pansy, Pansy messaged me. I think we're friends.
No, when Pansy followed me, I was like,
Oh yeah.
Pansy followed me.
Yeah,
on
when
Twitter.
when anyone follows you, that's like notable.
that I like, yeah,
Yeah,
but
that you
Pansy
like.
was a big one. But yeah, so if you guys follow her journey and the way that she got into casting and how she's managed to be so successful,
She's
I
had it
think
tough.
Yeah, she's had it really tough, and
We'll
I
bring
think
her on an episode next year.
I think it attests to like the way that you can get noticed, because like I said, believe in yourself is such a big deal. There's gonna be people that don't like you and don't believe in you. I've had a fair share of it. You've had a fair share of it. If I had a penny for every
Unbelievable.
time in the beta when someone's like, I don't want to play with Boaster, like I'd be rich by now. I wonder how those guys are doing. But being able to believe in yourself and to kind of know what you want and where you want to be is a great starting point. But in terms of getting noticed, there is a problem right now when it comes to talent that are like undervalued and underpaid and doing stuff for free. But like if you've never casted before, I think it's completely okay for you to try and hop into some community events, hop in like a Discord
So you
server.
did.
Yeah, I did that.
You started off hosting in all these community events.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
whatnot.
I love UKV. UKV is where I like properly had like a weekly thing. I did other hosting before, but this was like the first time in Valorant that I got. UKV is like a UK university league. I love all the guys there, amazing, and super good to work with. But obviously, I started off there, and just for experience. Can I finish before? Is this relevant? What you're gonna add?
We might miss the boat.
Oh, yeah,
That's
go
what
on,
I'm
go on, go on,
saying.
go on.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but what I was going to say in terms of, I've forgotten it now.
Great. Okay, let me just carry.
Wait, it was something to do. It's because I've been waiting so long that I forgot. It was to do with because we're not really on that pathway anymore. But with hosting, with casting, with analysis, it's almost like you have to get radiant before you're ready for your shot. That's what I wanted to say.
I disagree.
No, I think you have to.
Oh, you don't mean radiant in the game. You mean radiant in that path.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant like you have to be radiant
You
to be
don't
a
have to
caster.
radiant
I
to be
was
a
like,
caster. No, I meant
Yeah.
in that certain area, you need to be you need to be able to self-evaluate yourself and be like, how good am I? Am I as good as these guys who are the current radiant?
but always believe in yourself.
Yeah,
Believe
yeah.
you can get there.
Yeah, exactly. Whether you're there or not is like doesn't matter, but can you get there?
But I'm not there yet. Like
No, you're not.
I'm not Machine
You
or
dog.
Shocks.
No, joking. You're great.
I'm not like Machine or Shocks, or Frankie or like any of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
guys, or even Golden Boy who did VCT, who was great. But I believe in myself though. Like I know I'm gonna get there. Like I look at Shocks' career, for example. She also started interviewing. She was great, and I watch her old stuff and I watch her new stuff, and I really enjoy everything
Yeah.
she does. But I know I'm not there yet. It's not deterring me, but also I'm realistic enough to think that I cannot be I don't deserve to be entitled. Like I cannot act like I'm their level. I'm just simply not. I think that's the other thing that's really important, having a humble attitude, because if you're someone that's putting yourself out there on social media or to other colleagues acting like you're better than them, because in the
Or
talent
just as good.
in the talent community, either everybody is going to help you get an opportunity, or people are going to think you're an asshole and they don't want to work with you. Like, because if I have to do a show with people 3 days a week, every week for like 2 months, after a while, you don't want to work with people who are constantly negative or who are constantly mean to you or who are constantly like putting you down. So, especially for me as a host, like I had no right coming into VCT and try and act like I'm just as good as Pansy. Like, not in a million years. Like, I'm there to learn. I'm there to grow. I'm not there to kind of
You're radiant.
pretend.
You're radiant, but you're not the competitive level of
No,
me radiant.
hell no.
So
Like,
that's-
nowhere near.
So that's what I
Yeah.
think. You have to be able to
But
self-evaluate yourself.
I think
It's very
that the
important.
self-awareness is super important, because if I marched into VCT with a bunch of people who are like Hypoc and Pansy, who are like so experienced, and I'm sat there like, oh, I'm the best, I'm better than all of you, I'm gonna act like I'm the king of the space.
This masho.
That is gonna turn people off. That's not the right attitude. But
You won't get the experience you need.
and you won't get noticed in the correct way that way. So if you're starting out, I think you need to be hungry and humble and like get those experiences. And when you get your opportunity, to continue to learn. I'm sure that even Pansy probably doesn't have too much to learn anymore, because she's perfection at this
She'll
point.
always have something to learn.
But yeah, I'm sure she's also got that attitude as well.
Are you noticing a pattern?
Of what?
How all these skills are actually
Being nice.
transferable?
Yeah, massively.
In
massively.
Radiant, I pretty much said the same thing. If you want to go pro, as to what you're saying, if you want to be a host or a caster or an analyst or a talent, or if you want to be a journalist, or if you want to be a bank man,
Bank man.
finance. I don't know. It's the only thing.
What
I could
JChem does.
Yeah. So if you want to do any of that, it's all about connections and having a positive impact.
I think the moral of the story is be positive, be professional, put yourself out there, believe in yourself, use social media wisely in a good way, not in a bad way. Don't be toxic, and just keep up the grind, because you'll get there. You'll definitely get there. Like I said, I have been grinding. You've been grinding for 7 years before you went like properly pro.
On and off, on and off.
Yeah, I've been grinding for about 5 years, but
Yeah.
admittedly, I've only been grinding the host gig for like just over a year. But you betcha that I was
skills are
grinding.
transferable, and obviously
Yeah.
contacts are transferable, especially in esports. So even though you've been in the hosting biz for a year or over a year, there were still times in your previous hustle that you were helping to improve that as well. So it all helps in the long run.
It does indeed. Well, I think that concludes our first episode. Woo! Should we do our handshake? Because you did it in VCT Ison and people didn't really know what it was. But I tweeted it was our secret handshake.
It's not
Should we
really
do it?
secret.
It's not secret anymore because we're gonna do it.
There we go.
That's what we do.
We stole it.
Yeah. So if you ever see us do this on camera,
It's from David and the Mitchells. The Mitchells versus the Machines.
David Mitchell's a comedian.
Yeah, I meant the Mitchells and the Machines.
Oh.
Anyway, we'll talking about David Mitchells in a future episode.
Yeah, and we're going
Don't
to
forget to
now.
like and subscribe, everyone. I hope you had a lovely time.
You're more professional than I am.
Closing out in 3, 2,